I started a conversation on the Sakaga Discord earlier today that I was immediately directly reminded of from one of the Kickstarters, and that is the idea of anthologies.
Yeah,
Because I
that was an
love,
interesting conversation, or at least an interesting start of one. You don't like that word.
I don't like that word, but I love the idea. Um, because I think that it is very loaded to mean a very specific thing. When you hear the word anthology, a very specific thing comes to mind, which is not the whole of what anthologies are. The term
Let's.
anthology is
Mhm.
used for a very broad topic, which is a lot of creators creating independent work that is all together in one collection,
Right.
like the bunny thing.
Yeah, and that's a weird one because I would say I would agree that that Nobody Loves You, which we just talked about, it classifies as an anthology. And I was talking to you offline about it that I don't personally care for anthologies usually, but when when I see an anthology, I know like I've got a good sense of what it is. I think like most of the anthologies that I have bought and read, have been like here we have a theme for this book, and everyone's contributing a piece on that theme. Um, uh, and I'm gonna like lay my biases out here. I don't care for anthologies. I just don't personally enjoy them. I like I when I pick up a comic book, what I'm usually looking for is a narrative from a someone driving a narrative. So it's like one person says, "I'm going to tell this story," and then they tell it, usually with either on their own, just drawing it themselves, or getting a squad together, and usually the writer's driving. Like I'm writing the story, and we're all pulling together to create it together as a comic book. But I like a single story, so often I just don't typically dig on anthologies, but I respect them, and I love that they exist and that they are a thing that people can buy, and I really like that like people do some of the anthology projects they do. Like I think there was one called Flight that I kind of liked, okay, I guess. Where it's just a whole bunch of different like established artists all contributed to a short story about around the theme of flight. And Nobody Loves You, like we just talked about, which is four people all telling parts of the same story. What's on your mind about them?
I would like to do. No, see, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to do things that are classified in my head as anthologies, but I don't like the baggage associated with that term. Also, because I think, regardless of if they've actually thought about it critically or not, I think anthologies aren't popular. But I think the concept of anthologies could be incredibly popular. And I really like,
I feel
again,
that
how.
I feel that about indie comics in general. But go on.
I think the bunny Kickstarter did it in a good way. Like I would describe that as an anthology. It doesn't use the term anthology. It describes it as a continuous story told by multiple creators, which I think like that's something I really want to do.
Oops. I think it actually did use the word anthology.
If it did, it hit it.
No, I don't see the word anthology on the page. So yeah. No, yeah, I definitely think it qualifies, but I did create an anthology with my friends like long ago, before I met you and most of the Sakaga gang. It was actually with my Virginia friends, and that may have been one of the contributing factors to sour me on it. Because I didn't have fun pulling it together. We didn't really keep up with it because we kind of had the idea of creating a zine that we could put out like on a periodic basis and pick a theme, and everyone just contributes a comic or two to it. And I just didn't have any fun contributing to it or pulling it together. And it was actually kind of popular-ish. Like, there wasn't anything, like, because we actually sold a bunch. And people actually kind of liked it. I don't know.
It's something I want to explore more. And so like I've got this marketing question about it. Like if I try and do a quote anthology, like I want to approach it a specific way, and I want to find a new way to talk about it in a way that is exciting and not gag inducing.
So I feel like so you're basically saying the concept of anthologies needs a rebranding.
Yes, actually, that's exactly what I think. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in it. So I think about what an anthology is in other art forms, like, say, music, which is also known as a band putting out an album, and how that is almost the primary thing people think about when it comes to music. And I know it's a little more, like, that's a very low... It's not the best metaphor, but, is what I'm saying. But I like the idea of a actual thought out theme with like a writer's room with a like a decision on the direction of a story, but everyone contributing their own parts to it in their own mediums to create
So
a new unified whole.
there is a project I have in mind that kind of classifies, which is this. Because like my plan for putting out chapters of Wild Azaleas was to print it and also include a short story that takes place in my world but is like written and illustrated by a friend of mine. Now, the two problems with this are I haven't had time to sit down and plan out printing a chapter of this, and it's really hard to ask that much work of a friend. I've talked to you about it, I've talked to Alan about it, and I've talked to Kimmy about it. And I kind of like know what I would work on with each of you. But damn though.
And yeah, that's so I have thought about that when I was thinking about this in like early stages, and that is, yes, that's something I do want more of. I want more of those kind of ideas. I kind of like the idea of, even if it's one person starting idea, a project that everyone like has more of a communal say in making. I don't know. This is very early days ideas, if that makes sense. I don't know. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I want to make stories with people I like.
I just got a first-time chat from someone I think I recognize. Well, it's Sinister something, but it's Sinister is outside.
I see.
I have a strong suspicion that this is Sinister something's alternate account. If I'm incorrect, please let me know.
I somewhat reminded of Saberfly, who can never remember the login password for her Twitch, so whenever she does show up to one of my streams, it's usually with a new account. So yeah, I'm trying to solve in my background processes. I'm trying to solve the anthology problem.
So I like the idea. I think I was kind of like I don't know, I cool on the idea, I'd say, when we were talking about it offline, but I think when I think about it as a rebranding, I get it a little bit more. Because all right, so let me ask you this. What anthology would you make? If like you had buy-in from all your friends and the marketing issue was solved, what anthology would you like to make?
I don't think I could know until I had the group together. and I think that's one of the important things. I know a lot of anthologies that I don't like are someone came up with the theme and then just asked a bunch of artists to contribute to that theme. They didn't like talk about it first.
Well, I think the ones that the one that I was mentioning, like they said it was a well-funded publisher or producer who did a sign up among like established professional artists and said, "Hey, who would like to contribute to this sort of like more indie like side project?" And so everyone in it was someone who had done something that you'd recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And it was high quality work. I just found it kind of boring. Kind of. Not altogether boring, just I think like that one flight that I'm talking about, the anthology called Flight, was sort of the moment I realized that I don't particularly care for them. I don't know. This is two things that I've talked about tonight about that I just don't like. Man, I don't like being downer. I don't like it.
This is a case where like I don't want to come off as telling you like what you like and don't like.
Yeah.
I think that there is potential in the idea of an anthology that you haven't experienced yet, and that I'm not sure I've experienced yet, and
Possibly.
I don't have the answer to those questions.
I think I would actually rather just shut up about how I feel about anthologies and focus on this branding issue in itself, you know, and because I think it is an interesting conundrum. There are a lot of anthologies on Kickstarter. I almost always skip them because it's harder to talk about.
I agree.
So, a thought that I have, and kind of a strength of anthologies, is their ability to be serialized. In that, and the one that I mentioned, Flight, did that, which is that they did Flight 1, Flight 2, Flight 3, Flight 4. And so, one reason I could imagine our crew would contribute to an anthology is because it's a regular, printed, paid project. And so you can produce it in a way that says, hey, this community is producing this anthology. It has this theme, and if you subscribe, you will get this one and the next subsequent 6 or whatever. And it could have the dual purpose of like being a regularly produced product that a few people could make some money off of, get some exposure on, and be kind of a cool creative project all at the same time.
Yeah. In fact, okay, so I want to specify here that I don't have any answers, which is why I posed it as a very open question.
Yeah.
In the Discord. To a certain extent, I almost see it like I kind of want the indie version of the MCU, in that these are all completely individual stories with different directors, producers, cast, blah 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 blah. It's completely separate visions that all come together to one whole, and I don't see a reason why we can't do that better as a group of indie people.
All right. I think that is a cool idea. I don't think our group can do that because we are all individual creators with complete creative control of our individual products. And so, like, you're working on your stuff. Jeff is working on Jeff's stuff. Kimmy's working on Kimmy's stuff. I'm working on my stuff. Like, this hypothetical, like, team up would pull us all away from the primary project that each of us focuses on. And that's tough to do.
I'm not saying specifically the Chicago crew. And I'm not talking specifically comics either.
That's the problem,
see.
because that's all I think about all day, all night. I have a one-track mind when it comes to art.
I like the idea of like a multimedia thing, too. For example, I think of this as more of a Several Crows thing than a Sakata thing.
Fair point. I get you.
But like, there are certainly problems that need to be solved, but I'm not going into it with because like you brought up an absolutely valid point. I'm not convinced that's I'm not convinced that's a deal breaker argument. I feel like there is ways that everyone can be served and tell their story. And if I were to do one, that's what I'd want to do. Like,
there's a risk here because I think there's two things you're talking about at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
One is this sort of like high level, man, I wish anthologies were easier to sell. I think anthologies could have a rebranding. Two is I have the idea for a project that pulls a bunch of people together to do an anthology-like thing. And you're kind of trying to describe both at once. I don't think you're ready to.
Well, see, that's the thing. This is me brainstorming.
That's
is what
fair.
it
That's
is.
fair.
I don't fucking have any idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because if the questions aren't asked, the problems don't get solved.
I'm not into it yet. I need you to sell it. Like for me to be a part of it, you're gonna need to sell me on it.
That's why I'm talking about it in public. I'm actually also hoping the audience has.
Hey, folks,
idea.
you read anthologies? Have you read an anthology that you like?
Because to a certain extent, it's also kind of what you have proposed doing with Lamplight.
That's fair. Codigan reads sci-fi anthologies. Or the sci-fi anthology. And I'm guessing that's more of a word loaf than a comic book. Because my brain runs on comics.
Mm-hmm.
I may be an exclusive elitist about it. I may assume that other people are talking about comics when they're not.
I mean, it was a fair assumption given how the conversation started.
Yes. I think a prose anthology would be more appealing to me than a comic book anthology.
I have yet to find. I love the concept of them, but I have yet to find an anthology of anything I liked. And that is exactly why I want to solve this problem.
Let's put a pin on that for now and go back to a pin that you mentioned earlier. There was one of the Kickstarters you said had
that was the pin.
That was the pin, was the anthology thing?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe because of the bunny thing.
Right. Got it.
So that was the pin.
Okay. All right. Well, that covers two birds with one stone. But no, let's revisit this later because I feel like there's not enough established to get anywhere with it yet. But that said, I feel like I've got some stuff I can offline. I can grill you on to kind of like refine what you're trying to do, because it seems a little bit amorphous still.
That's because it absolutely is.
So let's chat offline and see if we can't refine this idea a little bit, just the two of us, and then bring it back.
That's
Um,
fair. I like talking about these things in public
well,
because,
to a point.
yeah, well,
It is what this is about, isn't it?
yeah, it kind of is.